Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the one and only DJ Storms, and I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I know I did. I got a lot of mashed potatoes, a lot of turkey in there. It was a very great time. I had a great time with my family. I hope everybody had a great time with their families. But now it's time to get back in business. Now it's time to get back to the lightning flash update. You already know who I am, Mr. Controversy, and the operator of the best damn Twitter handle known to mankind. And this week's Lightning Flash update, this is going to focus heavily on the news, rumors, and reports because I have a lot to say about the recent reports that came out earlier this week. So I'm basically going to breeze through Raw and SmackDown. It wasn't really that much of a memorable week as far as Raw and SmackDown goes. 205 Live and NXT, yeah, they were a bit better. NXT this week was basically a one-match show, which we will address. But for now, let's get into Monday Night Raw. So Raw basically kicked off with Stephanie McMahon saying Triple H led Team Raw to victory. Angle came out and he basically told Triple H to watch your step. Jason Jordan then came out. He said he wanted Triple H. This was actually a very good, even though it was only a few words. It was a very good intense promo from Jason. He's slowly coming along. I believe the heel turn would give him that extra oomph that he needs. Braun Strowman then came out. He had a stare off with Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon basically said, "You want to fight so badly, Houston? Then here you get Jason Jordan versus Braun Strowman." It could have been good, but I had a feeling that they were just going to they were just going to throw it away, and they pretty much did with this meaningless Kane feud. So later in the night, Jason Jordan and Braun Strowman, it ended in a DQ, and Kane attacked, and he ended up taking a steel chair to throw to Braun Strowman. Why is this feud even taking place? Really, why? You don't need to enhance Braun Strowman anymore. The fact that he was in a feud with Brock Lesnar earlier this year enhances him the farthest. Brock Lesnar, without a doubt, is that one guy that if you put somebody in the ring with, he can make or break you. And in this case, he made Braun Strowman. But I still don't know why Braun Strowman did not win the Universal Championship. Kane, he's really of no use. He's really of no use because he's running for mayor of Tennessee, and this little push is basically going to end once Braun Strowman beats him. Matter of fact, it's probably might end at the Rumble. But either way, it's not going to go for very long. I don't even think they should have brought Kane back to begin with. But anyway, the show continued on with a match between Samoa Joe and Finn Balor. Samoa Joe and Finn Balor putting on fantastic matches as always. And Samoa Joe defeated Finn Balor. I do have news on Finn Balor that may or may not shock you. And also, Finn Balor has also been very vocal about the decision that I will talk about later on in the news, rumors, and reports section. Asuka then defeated Dana Brooke. I expected it. There was a Miz TV session hosted by The Miz, obviously with Roman Reigns as the guest. The Shield came out. The Miz wanted a thank you for getting the Shield back together. There was some technical difficulties when the lights went on and off. Houston was actually behind Bo Dallas. They were chanting, "We Bo Leave." So Houston, it was not a dead crowd. The crowd was hot for most of the show. But the storylines and booking of the show, not so much. So anyway, later in the night, Roman Reigns versus The Miz for the IC title was set. And I am also guessing that next week, Roman Reigns is going to be doing a IC title open challenge, similar to the US Open Challenge, because he said that there was going to be an open challenge coming soon, and anybody can get it in an exclusive interview after Monday Night Raw. And I also expect that Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose are going to get back those tag team titles soon. So Dean Ambrose then defeated Sheamus. It was a good match. Matt Hardy says that this is not Jason Jordan's night, when Jason Jordan wanted advice before his match with Braun Strowman. So Alexa Bliss came out to address her loss, said she's still the goddess. Mickie James came out, Bayley came out, Sasha came out, Fox came out. Fatal 4-Way. It really wasn't that exciting. Paige then returned, and she said she didn't come alone. So Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose show up, and they just beat down everybody. And then in the backstage area, they attacked Alexis. So I also have news on this NXT raid, if you want to call it. Later, the Zo Train had a little promo session, and Enzo basically said that they were all thankful for me. Swan, Alexander, Akira Tozawa, and Ali came out, and they all defeated the Zo Train. Elias and Matt Hardy had a brawl, and Roman Reigns defeated The Miz to win the Intercontinental Championship. I'm assuming the IC title Open Challenge is going to become a regular thing. And there's been rumors going around that he might lose the Intercontinental Championship before WrestleMania. Question is, to whom? Then we get SmackDown Live. Shane McMahon kicks us off. Basically stated that, SmackDown is still the land of opportunity, still the A show. Then he tells us that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are not loyal. And Shane was about to fire them until Bryan came out and made a lumberjack match between the New Day and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for later that evening. Shelton Benjamin defeated Jey Uso in a good match. I actually wasn't really expecting much from this match, but these two teams actually work very well together. I can't wait to see what they do at Clash of Champions once that match is announced. So, similar to what Monday Night Raw did with Paige, Sonya Deville, and Mandy Rose, we had Ruby Riott, Sarah Logan, and Liv Morgan attack the SmackDown Live Women's Division backstage, and supposedly they have written Becky off of TV for some reason. I guess it's probably going to lead to a big miraculous comeback of some sorts. Maybe Becky could be the one to win the first ever Women's Royal Rumble, because that's apparently what this NXT call-up raid is all about. The Bludgeon Brothers made their debut. They look fantastic. Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. They came out looking like two beasts. Their entrance is fantastic, and they demolished the Hype Bros. Can't wait to see what they do with the Bludgeon Brothers in the future. AJ Styles basically addressed Jinder Mahal. He says he'll be open to Lesnar again. Jinder Mahal came up on the Titantron, said he would invoke his rematch clause at Clash of Champions before the Singh brothers came out, and AJ Styles basically demolished them. Charlotte versus Natalya ended in a DQ as Riott, Logan, and Morgan attacked them. And it was basically a raid, like I keep on saying. Except the SmackDown Live women's raid was a bit better, mainly because they didn't just attack. It wasn't just a one little thing, and that was it. They really came out. They interrupted a match, similar to what the Monday Night Raw women did. But I feel as though the SmackDown Live women, they're gonna add a bit more excitement, because we all know that Liv Morgan, she's very charismatic. Obviously, there's room for improvement, but she's very charismatic in her own right. Ruby Riott is very good. Sarah Logan was part of the Mae Young Classic, so I feel as though SmackDown might have had the upper edge with this women's riot, but we're going to see where this goes. AJ Styles versus the Singh brothers was announced for next week. The Fashion Files, Do You Want to Play a Game, was announced for next week. And then later, Owens and Zayn defeated the New Day in a lumberjack match, and Sami Zayn got attacked. Owens left him high and dry, and let me tell you something. If there's one thing that really gets under my skin, it's when these phenomenal wrestlers, these phenomenal competitors who were treated like beasts, who were given the persona of a beast and an ass kicker wherever they go, and then they come to WWE and they make them look like a coward. Make them look like nothing. They make them look like a shell of their former selves. As Kevin Owens was on his knees begging Daniel Bryan not to fire him, this was the same guy that attacked Vince McMahon 2 months ago. Does that make any sense? The answer is no. But anyway, this led to Owens versus Orton next week. Really? Okay. What does it mean? really means nothing. Obviously, this is probably going to lead to a tag team match between Shinsuke Nakamura, Randy Orton versus Owens and Zayn, probably a Clash of Champions. And if Owens and Zayn lose, then they're fired. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. Anyway, 205 Live this week. This was my second favorite show of the week. I couldn't care less about Raw or SmackDown when you compare it to 205 Live this week. And this episode, you really have to go back to the July 18th episode of 205 Live to rate this show. Because on the July 18th episode of 205 Live, in my opinion, the greatest match ever contested on 205 Live took place. And that was Mustafa Ali versus Drew Gulak in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Match was fantastic. 20 minutes of excellence, that match was. And let me tell you something. Mustafa Ali and Drew Gulak, I really don't think anyone will ever come close to what they did that night. Whether it be in a stipulation match or a regular match or even a tag team match. I don't think anyone's going to come close to what they did. So, Drew Gulak came out when Enzo was giving advice to his Zotrain that if they win their matches tonight, possibly they might get a shot at the Cruiserweight Championship. Drew Gulak comes in dressed as the Gobbledygooker, and he goes, "I'm the Gobbledygulacker." Drew Gulak, without a doubt, is one of my favorite cruiserweights. He is, without a doubt, the most charismatic cruiserweight, right behind Enzo Amore. That's on 205 Live. So, then we got a street fight between Drew Gulak and Akira Tozawa. And Drew Gulak came out looking like Terry Funk with his jeans tucked into his boots and his wrists were taped up. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but he had PowerPoint across his wrist tape. And the crowd was chanting PowerPoint. And out of nowhere, Drew Gulak just looks behind him. He goes, "No chanting." And so throughout the night, throughout the entire match, the crowd was chanting "no chants" for Drew Gulak, which, might I add, is very, very clever. So Akira Tozawa defeated Drew Gulak in this street fight. This was a great match. For 205 Live, this was a very great match. They used everything. There was a point in this match where Drew Gulak set up his sign, his no chant sign in the corner. I guess he was looking to body slam Tozawa through it. Tozawa reversed it and side suplexed Gulak through the sign. And of course, then we had Akira Tozawa. He ran across the announce table and did a cannonball to Drew Gulak, sending Gulak into the barricade. Then we got a table, and we got a trash can and a kendo stick. Akira Tozawa puts the trash can on top of Gulak, and he starts taking a swing. He starts swinging away on the trash can when Gulak is inside it. Drew Gulak is laid out on the table, and then he channels his inner Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 22, and he does a senton through Drew Gulak, through the garbage can, through the table. And Akira Tozawa wins a very good match. Hideo Itami was announced that he is coming to 205 Live. Mark my words, Hideo Itami will be the next Cruiserweight Champion. I know Cedric Alexander is fantastic in every sense of the word. Mustafa Ali is fantastic in every sense of the word. But with the way that Hideo Itami has been portrayed on NXT since his return, I think that Hideo Itami will be the one to dethrone Enzo and carry 205 Live into 2018. He may follow a Neville route, and he may win the Cruiserweight Championship at the Royal Rumble come Philadelphia. So, then we get Tony Nese versus Mustafa Ali, and in the middle of this match, Mustafa Ali does Tony Nese's bicep taunt. And Vic Joseph goes, "Look at the peak on Mustafa." And Nigel McGuinness is without a doubt one of my favorite color commentators. He goes, "It's barely a peak at all. It's a peakette." He says peakette. And by then, I laughed my ass off. I was laughing my ass off on the couch. And, you know, I'm sitting there wondering, like, these guys, like Nigel McGuinness, these guys, they don't need to be in NXT. They need to be commentating on the main roster. He needs to be with Corey Graves and Michael Cole and Tom Phillips. I would gladly have him replace Booker T. Now Jim McGinnis is fantastic in every sense of the word. So, this match was a very good match, even though it kind of went a little short. But I think it's safe to say that Mustafa Ali is, without a doubt, the AJ Styles of 205 Live. The guy never botches. The guy can work with anyone. He can lead anyone to a great match. There was a point in this match where Mustafa Ali, he's usually on the apron, and he does his roll-through somersault neckbreaker. But Tony Nese, he was too far away, so Mustafa, like the professional that he is, rolls through into a facebuster and makes it seem like that was supposed to happen. It didn't even feel rushed. It didn't even feel like a last-minute decision. He is, without a doubt, one of the best workers, if not the best worker on 205 Live. Some can argue Cedric Alexander, but for now, I'm sticking with Mustafa. He's a very underrated competitor. Anyway, Tony Nese ended up defeating Mustafa Ali with that brutal running knee in the corner. And then in the main event, Cedric Alexander and Rich Swann defeated Arya Daivari and Noam Dar. And then the Zo Train just laid out everyone. And then to end the night, Enzo delivered a double splash off the top rope to Swann and Alexander as they were laying on top of each other. And that was the show. Overall, not a bad show. Not a bad show at all. So, NXT this week. It was a taping from Houston. Ruby Riott defeated Sonya Deville in a better match than I expected. Sonya Deville is slowly coming along. The main portion of the show was mainly a bunch of NXT TakeOver highlights, which I basically expected since it was a taping from Houston. The Street Profits were seen partying on top of a car, and Tino Sabbatelli and Rick Moss tried to spoil the party. But that didn't happen as the Street Profits and their cult following sent them off. And then they continued to party. So we get the Street Profits versus Sabbatelli and Moss in a rematch for next week. And now on to, in my opinion, the match of the week. Pete Dunne defeating Johnny Gargano in a UK Championship match. This match was a fantastic match in every sense of the word. And let me tell you something. I said that Mustafa Ali was the AJ Styles of 205 Live. Johnny Gargano is the AJ Styles of NXT. It doesn't matter who you put Johnny in the ring with. This guy led a very inexperienced Riddick Moss and even a Tino Sabbatelli to a good match. And let me tell you something. That's not taking a shot at Tino Sabbatelli and Riddick Moss. I'm just saying that they're very inexperienced, and Johnny Gargano was able to bring them to a good match. That's a testament to how good Johnny Gargano really is. Now, I had a feeling that Johnny Gargano was going to lose, but I merely don't want Johnny Gargano to take over Andrade Cien Almas' place. It's almost like when Almas beat Gargano, it's like they traded places. And now Johnny Gargano has basically become the Dolph Ziggler of NXT. And put it this way, if they're really going to go through with Johnny Gargano and either Tommaso Ciampa or having Johnny Gargano compete for the NXT Championship at TakeOver New Orleans, they really need to start building him up now. I mean, if they want to have him do like a redemption tour, kind of like what they did with Sami Zayn back in 2014, then yeah, by all means, it's a good plan. I have no problem with that. So this match was very good. Pete Dunne and Johnny Gargano, they had counter for counter, this for that, slingshot spears. There was one point where Gargano had the Gargano escape, and Pete Dunne was actually biting the finger of Johnny Gargano to get loose. And in turn, it took out his mouth guard. Johnny, like the savage that he is, just took the mouth guard, threw it away, and super kicked the living daylights out of Pete Dunne, and I actually thought that was it. I'm not gonna lie, I had a feeling that I knew this was gonna be a good match, but something just screamed in my head, yeah, there's no way Johnny Gargano is winning this. But that kick, that super kick, made me believe that Johnny Gargano had this one in the bag, but it was not to be. As Pete Dunne kicked out, Gargano went for another slingshot spear, got caught with a brutal forearm, and then the bitter end, and Pete Dunne retains the United Kingdom Championship. Great match, definitely the match of the week. And let me tell you something, it was very good, but it was not better than Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate. That match, let me tell you something, even though it was short, even though it was 15 minutes, that was a great match. That was a great match. It was not match of the year, but it was a great damn match. So I think it's going to be very tough for Pete Dunne to have a better match with anyone who's not named Tyler Bate. We're going to have to find out. We're going to have to find out who he drops the United Kingdom Championship to. So, now on to the news, rumors, and reports. So, this was actually reported on multiple sources, but I saw it on Instagram from Curbside Hero. If you guys know who he is, follow him on Instagram. So apparently, WWE has reportedly instructed SmackDown Live ring announcer Greg Hamilton to stop doing the pause in his announcing, which encourages fans to say one fall during his introductions. Now, the belief is that officials only want announcers to do things that will get the talent over, and reports also suggest that WWE is also not happy with the crowd chanting "too sweet" after a 2 count. So let me get this straight. The WWE officials are more focused on what the fans are chanting when an announcer is speaking, rather than booking creative storylines that would actually get the talent over themselves. The officials are relying on the ring announcers. The ring announcers to get the talent over. They're relying on the ring announcers, the timekeepers, the referees, the commentators. You're relying on them to get the talent over. That is your job. That is not the announcer's job. The announcer's job is to announce the superstars and announce the matches. The commentators' jobs are to call the actions. The timekeepers' jobs are to time each and every match. Their job is not to do anything in their power to get talent over. That just screams. It screams laziness. It screams laziness, and it basically states, oh yeah, anybody will watch this because we're World Wrestling Entertainment. If you see it that way, you do not deserve to even be employed in the WWE. And plus, wrestling is all about having fun. What do you want us to do? You want us to sit there on our hands and knees and not say a word? Do you want us to chant all these generic chants and act like robots? It's the little stuff like that that really gets under my skin, because the fact of the matter is that WWE has been on a downward spiral for years now. Years. And they do nothing about it. And whenever they do something about it, it's always the wrong decision. It's always the wrong and overly complicated decision, rather than the simple decision, the simple, straightforward decision, as to give the fans what we want. Basically, to copy what NXT is doing. I could go back and forth for 5 hours talking about this stuff, and even if an official from World Wrestling Entertainment saw this, they still wouldn't get it. So, moving on here, before I pop a vein, Pro Wrestling Sheet is reporting that WWE called up 5 of the NXT female stars because Vince felt that the Raw and SmackDown Live women's divisions were stale. Because basically Vince McMahon believes that every program that does not involve Roman Reigns is stale. Mandy Rose was obviously the first to come up since they already had ideas for her debut. Surprise, surprise. This could be leading to the Women's Royal Rumble, but there is no official word as of today. So I really don't mind the Women's Royal Rumble as long as they treat it like a big deal, as long as it doesn't end up like the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Because I was actually very excited for the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and it ended up turning out to be a disappointment. Not the match itself, not the wrestling itself. I'm talking about the outcomes. I never ever discredit the wrestling in the modern day WWE. I always critique and I always criticize the outcomes and the creative storyline and booking. Wrestling automatically gets an A. Wrestling is fantastic regardless. They got the wrestling right. They can't get the outcomes or the creative storylines and booking right. So we're going to see how that plays out. Now, according to Dave Meltzer, the original plans for the Royal Rumble to have Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship have been scrapped because Vince feels that Balor is not over enough. Vince feels that Balor is not over enough. This coming from the man who thought that AJ Styles' reaction at the Royal Rumble of 2016 was a fluke. This coming from the man who thought that nobody would know who AJ Styles was. How can anybody take Vince McMahon's decision as a smart decision? How can anybody take Vince McMahon's decision as a smart decision? Finn Balor has been waiting however many months, 7-8 months, for a Universal Championship rematch. We're talking about Finn Balor. This is the guy that defeated guys who are bigger than him, guys who are stronger than him, guys who are faster than him, guys like Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens, Bray Wyatt, Seth Rollins. I suppose now that Vince McMahon believes that since Andrade Cien Almas beat Drew McIntyre, he doesn't see that as correct because Drew McIntyre is bigger, he's stronger, he's faster than Almas. Supposedly, that's a wrong decision too. This is coming from the man that wanted James Ellsworth to face Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania 34, but yet Vince McMahon is a great businessman, right? But yet Vince McMahon, he's great at running the company. Vince McMahon has outlived his usefulness. He is of no means valuable to the WWE anymore. I don't care what anybody says. He is of no means valuable. And Finn Balor, he was not happy. Finn Balor actually sent out 2 tweets this week. One of him wrestling Roman Reigns the night after Battleground, and he tweeted hashtag Balor Club forever, but he capitalized the O-V-E-R. Taking a jab at Vince McMahon, and he even did it last night during Thanksgiving. He actually tweeted, "I am not over cooking the turkey. Hashtag Happy Thanksgiving." If you don't believe me, check on his Twitter profile page. If anything, I would have Finn Balor beat Brock Lesnar. Because Brock Lesnar's championship reign has been terrible. Terrible. Not over enough. I suppose you consider Roman Reigns to be over, right? Moving on. My final report of the day has to do with NXT. So it's actually, it's good and bad to a certain extent. Dave Meltzer also reported that Drew McIntyre was set to debut on the main roster following Survivor Series, and Meltzer was told that the planned finish of the match with him and Almas was to have Almas win with that DDT, but McIntyre held on to the rope too long and tore his bicep. So the injury could possibly keep him out for 3 to 6 months. Now, I really don't agree with the decision to have McIntyre lose this early, but if he did tear his bicep, if he had torn his bicep and the plan was to have him win, then I would have agreed to have the title taken away from him. But I really don't agree with the decision only to have McIntyre win in August and lose it in November, because I really like the lengthy title reigns. I actually would have waited until NXT TakeOver Philadelphia to give Almas the championship if they really wanted to give Almas the championship. But I'm really not complaining. I believe Almas deserves it. I believe he's going to have a great run with it. And I wish McIntyre a speedy recovery. And ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this edition of the Lightning Flash Update. I would like to thank each and every one of you who tuned into this video live. Do not forget to like, do not forget to comment, do not forget to subscribe, do not forget to give that notifications bell a Tozawa-like diving senton from the top rope. to find out the first time or whenever I pop up on YouTube. Do not forget to follow me on Instagram at ddog316. Do not forget to follow me on Twitter at #1 WWE fan. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm DJ Storms. You have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.